Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Anthony Lewis, co-founder, CEO of Harmony. Welcome on Thursday, September 24th. We are a platform looking to address mental wellness in students and student well-being. But today we're hoping to have a conversation that's open to the whole world. And hopefully people can find some solace or at least figure out how to have these conversations in the world we're in today. So we know today, after what happened in Louisville and the conversations that stemmed from there with COVID and just the general environment, people are feeling that they need some comfort. They're feeling isolated, and we just want to be a place where we can come and build community. So we have Dr. Harris here coming to help us kind of think through some tools and think through how do we get back to being ourselves and be in a positive mental space. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to throw out the little bio here we got. So Dr. Harris, she's a licensed clinical psychologist at the Atlanta VA Medical Health System. She specializes in primary care within the mental health integration. Previously, Dr. Harris led psychologists in a substance abuse unit in Topeka, Kansas, at the Topeka VA. And she is a native of my hometown, Reedsville, North Carolina, and of the great alma mater of UNC at Chapel Hill, where she got her psychology and sociology degree. She has 2 masters in psych and clinical psych from UNCW and Wichita State. And she's a huge advocate for self-care and loves to be in the community. Thank you, Dr. Harris.
Thank you.
So one of the questions, at least from the bio, is one of the quotes that came across that I think is important, is you said, "It is not primarily our physical selves that limit us, but rather our mindset about physical limits." Can you kind of give us your thoughts on why that's an important quote?
Yes, so when we think about our physical limitations, it's not actually what our body can and cannot do, but it's what our mind tells us that we can't do. When we have negative thoughts about our body wants to shut down. Our body doesn't want to cooperate. There's this thing called the mind-body signal where you can send positive thoughts to your body and your body responds well to that. Also, the opposite happens where if you're sending negative thoughts to your body responds to that as well. So I'm all about positivity, all about optimism, all about thinking about yourself in the best way possible. And so when we do that, we're able to put our best foot forward. We're ready to just tackle things that we didn't think we could. But because we have that faith in ourselves, the faith in our bodies, we're able to do those. So that's where that quote comes from. And I embody that all the time.
And that leads me actually into one of the first questions I have. I mean, as the days get tougher and tougher, how do we begin to kind of process something like yesterday and process what's going on in the world today?
The first thing that I would tell anybody to do, and the first thing that I did yesterday, was to acknowledge all of my feelings. Acknowledge the frustration, acknowledge the hurt, acknowledge the hopelessness that I was feeling, the helplessness, the invalidation, the thinking that people think that my life is in vain. I acknowledged all of that, and then I took a step back. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. All of those things are negative. And so I have to figure out a way in which I can acknowledge these emotions and use them to fuel me to do something different. And so part of my self-care that I did for yesterday was to cut off social media. I heard about the story, I read the news on my phone, and then I was done. No, I had to check myself. I had to check my body. So my body and your body gives you signals of when you've had enough, of when you're overwhelmed. You may get hot, you may get sweaty, you may get a headache, your heart may start to race, you may feel tension in your shoulders and your neck. And so I was getting all of those things, and I was like, okay, wait. I got to stop. And so I had to limit my social media. I had to limit the news. And so I want other people to do that too. Know your body, know your limits, and know when you say, okay, I've had enough. I've had enough for today. And then I had to talk to people. I had to talk to people who were like-minded, people who were able to see where I was coming from, provide a different perspective, but also see what I was going through. And I had to get those thoughts off my head, off my heart, and I had to just let it out, because if I kept it in, it would fester and it would feel like I was about to explode. But once I was able to have that safe outlet, someone that I could trust to talk with, then things start to calm down for me. Things started to get better. I could see things more clearly. I know that things aren't as helpless and hopeless as I was first feeling. That yes, I'm still frustrated. Yes, I'm still upset. And yet I don't have to act on that frustration. And so that's how I would recommend anyone to deal with frustrating things that just feel unfair. Just helping to get yourself back grounded, back to the place that is your happy place.
That's amazing thoughts and the way that we should go about it. One of the questions I have is, COVID has created such an isolated world, and people, whether it's in relationships or within social justice or just family members being sick, how do we find those types of conversations? Or what do we do when we can't find someone to have those conversations with? How do we cope with that piece of it?
So, fortunately for myself, I know I have a huge family, so I can contact them, but there's always a Facebook group. There's a Facebook group that is very like-minded. If you just scroll down your timeline for a little while, you'll see someone and you can just start a conversation in their actual status, or you can actually private message them. That is another way of doing it. Also just journaling, getting it out. You can also video log or blog it, and you're not even talking to anyone else but yourself, but it's still helpful. So even if you feel like you don't have anyone to turn to, you have yourself. And that's the most important, is to make sure that you're able to just get it off your heart, get it off your chest. And so by doing that, either through Facebook, through journaling, through talking with someone, with even just listening to music. A lot of music that we listen to has messages behind it. So listening to that can actually help us to, you know what, they said it in a nice melodic way. I like that. That can help you. So that's what I would suggest.
Okay. And that makes sense. And here at Harmony, we're hoping to open those conversations as well. So if you feel like you can't find someone to speak to, jump in our forums. We hope that it provides a space for you to have these conversations and find people who are like-minded, as Dr. Harris is pointing out. One of the other questions, you gave us some great coping mechanisms, but, how do you go back to work or go to school or practice when you feel like those places may be triggering or may not be places where you feel fully supported? How do you cope with those types of environments?
The first thing that I would say would be to make sure you utilize your breaks. We all get breaks. Use them. Use them to meditate, use them to relax, use them to take a walk around the building, use them to sit in your car by yourself and just get away from everything. Making sure that you're eating something nutritious at lunch, that you're actually taking at lunch, making sure that you're eating a breakfast. That helps to give you that fuel to fight. Know that you don't have to be the spokesperson for your community. You don't have to be the one that, I have to challenge people to think differently. I have to be the one that is going to fight this and fight it alone. That is not your job. That does not have to be your job. Your job is whatever your duties are at that job or at school. You can say, you know what, I'm taking a day off. I'm not talking about that. You can even politely ask people, I don't think that's appropriate for this workplace or for this school setting. Can we not talk about that? And then if they're still talking about it, you can leave. Of course, I want you to be cordial, but you can also make sure that you're practicing your own self-care while you're at work, because you want it to feel a safe place. And it's not a safe place if you're being triggered. So find ways to find relaxation, or even listening to music, or having your headphones in so you don't have to listen to others, having nice smells. So for me, I always have perfume. And so whenever I'm feeling down, I can just do a little smell and it brings a smile to my face. Or Even making sure your lighting is right if you have an office. So maybe you need to dim it for lunch, or maybe you need to make it brighter so that you feel brighter. But those are things that you can do in your office space to feel like you can just make it through the day when people are not feeling you, or not seeing you, or not understanding where you're coming from, and that this week has been trying.
Yeah, I really want to point out two big things there that you pointed out, that you have the right not to engage, and also you should take care of yourself. Take your breaks. Take your breaks. You don't have to work all the
Yes.
way through. I think that's hard for a lot of us, especially in this stress environment. Being
Mhm.
virtual makes it tougher at this point.
It does. It does. And it's even harder when you're at home and it feels like your living room or your bedroom or your office is no longer yours, but it's part of your company's.
Hmm.
And so making sure you divide that space up. So don't sit on your couch while you're doing your work. Your couch is your sanctity, right? So that's going
Hmm.
to be your place where I'm going to laugh, I'm going to joke, I'm going to have a good time. But this work chair, this is what I'm going to use for my work. And so those are separate, and it makes it, you can put a little bit of distance between things, especially when you're feeling stressed.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a great point, because I do think we sometimes conflate that to the point of we have nowhere else to run to at that point. So
Mm-hmm.
love that. I love that. And so, I mean, to the point of not engaging with people, how do we go about disengaging, or finding out ways to distance ourselves in these conversations with people who are our bosses or our coaches, or people who we can't necessarily have that direct kind of, we don't want to talk about it type of conversation?
Mm-hmm. And that can be very difficult to figure out how to do it. First and foremost, always cordial, always use your manners. And then secondly, be assertive. So this is not a time for us to be passive or be aggressive, but that assertiveness is right down the middle. So we're able to speak and say our point, get it across to where we're feeling heard, and other people hear us, and it allows us to just say what's really on our mind and make sure that we're getting across in a way that doesn't tarnish our reputation, tarnish our character, tarnish the work that we've done in the office space, on the field, in school, wherever it is. Just making sure that we're still upholding our character. So that assertiveness is going to be great. Watching your tone, watching your volume, watching your hand signals. Like I use my hands a lot, but making sure that it's just not too boisterous. You want to make sure that you're able to just say things, but you're speaking on facts. You're
Mm-hmm.
not speaking too much on opinions, because people dismiss that a lot. But if you're speaking on facts, just straight to the point, try not to use a lot of slang in it, just making sure that you're able to say those things in a way to where, okay, I am going to address this situation. However, after this, can we get back to some self-care, or can we get back to why I'm here, which is school or work? And so you can put a caveat on it. You can say, I'm only giving this 5 minutes, and then I got to get back to what I'm doing. And people have to respect that, because you're compromising with them. Because although you may not want to talk about it at all, you're giving them at least a little bit of leeway. And so that's that give and take that you can have when you feel like you may not have that power with a coach or a boss.
No, that's great advice. I guess I want to get you out on one last question. One of the big things I'm seeing a lot of is women are saying they don't feel supported. They're not feeling as if the system or people are coming to bat for them, especially women of color. How can we as men, or as a system, support women, especially women of color, whether in violence or in different aspects, social aspects? How do we make sure we're authentically engaging?
The first thing I would say would be to listen, and to listen wholeheartedly, to listen just for listening's sake, to ask open-ended questions. If you're asking or you're talking about something and it makes you feel uncomfortable, know that that's where you're supposed to be at that moment, because no good thing happens if you're just stagnant. There has to be some change, and with that change comes a lot of discomfort. And so we need to hear that. We need to feel that for a little while in order to say, okay, I get it now. Also, just remembering that we're not monolithic, like we are all not the same. And so don't lump us all in the same category, and just stand up for us, speak up for us, know that we are fighting for you all and we just want that in return. It's very hard for us to see, and I will speak for myself to see that there are some men who only stand up for those that they are attracted to, or those that are in their family or their close friend. But that's not the same thing that's being reciprocated. We're fighting for anyone and everyone that is of the same race, that is going through some of the same plights that we go through. And so we just want that in return. That reciprocity is going to be good. Just speaking up and speaking out. Also summarizing what you heard. So make sure that you even heard it right. A lot of times we hear things in a certain perspective, and that may not be the intent, and that may not be what the other person wanted. So if we summarize what we hear, we're able to say, okay, I get it now. Or maybe I'm not getting it. Help me, enlighten me even more. So that's where that listening for listening's sake comes from. So I think that will help a whole lot.
Definitely appreciate that. Definitely appreciate all the advice you gave today. Is there any closing things that you wanted to keep in mind, or any thoughts that you want to take us away with?
I would say, you know what, just make sure you're listening to yourself. Make sure that you're following not only your heart, but your mind, and using your wise mind is what I like to call it, and what we call it in the psychology community, where we're taking our emotions, we're taking our thoughts, and we're putting them together so that we can come up with a solution that best fits our needs, and best fits who we are at our core. It best fits our values. That is going to be helpful for us to get through this. Don't feel like you're in this alone, because you're not. There are plenty of people who cried yesterday, that are crying right now, that are sick and tired of the injustices that we face. And so just know that there's someone here that can talk, that you can talk with, whether it's a professional, whether it's a forum like Harmony, whether it is Facebook, whether it's social media, whether it's family. Find someone, find that outlet, and then just make sure that you're using your wise mind when you're reacting and acting on things.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. And
You're
as pointed
welcome.
out, we're gonna open up the forums here on the Harmony website where you're watching this video. Jump in there, have conversations with one another, ask questions. We'll try to find some answers from people who are a lot smarter than me, like Dr. Harris, or other people in our community. And next week we're having a webinar on overcoming no. So hopefully this is in the same vein of really bringing your full mind to the battlefield in academics, as well as career exploration. So we appreciate you taking a look. We appreciate you, Dr. Harris. And we
Thank
hope you have
you.
a great night tonight.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.